I'm going to ask Bill Chin, is there, other than the members and Katie and yourself, are there any other people present, or can you tell me that or not?
Yeah, actually, at the bottom of your screen, you should see the participants tab. That should open up a window onto the right side.
There's a what?
Participants.
Okay.
And it currently says 0 attendees, so no members of the public have currently joined.
Okay, Mr. White is here, it looks like. Would that be correct, Mr. White?
Yes, I just joined.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Cinto is not in attendance. Attorney Nugent not in attendance. Attorney Shopik not in attendance. No? Okay, let's go forward. There seemed to be some question based upon an email that I received rather late in the day. Mr. Shopik was advising, I think, Mr. White, that the meeting was canceled, and I believe I got in touch with Mr. White as quickly as I could to tell him that that is not the case. The principal reason being for that, it appears that a document called a waiver has been executed by Mr. Cinto, and if he's not here, he's not here. But I believe I sent it all to you folks, maybe around 5:30, 5:45. Has everybody seen that? Has anybody seen that?
I don't think
No,
I got. I don't think I
I
got
don't
a
remember
copy.
seeing that, Tom, sorry.
I haven't, Tom.
All right, it wouldn't surprise me. Let me go to my other computer right here, because I know I have it here.
I got some emails from you, Tom, but I don't
All right.
have any
I'm
attachments.
going to send it to you guys right now
Okay.
so that you can read it. You don't have to listen to my talking. This will be to the TEC with a, Bonnie will be getting the CC subject.
Hey, Tom,
Yes,
this is Charlie. I'm just wondering whether we should approve the minutes of the previous meeting, just so we don't let that slip as.
sure, absolutely. Okay, let me just punch this and then Charlie, you get on with the necessary. You're right.
Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the
So
previous
moved.
meeting, the 6/11 meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
that's Larry. Okay, so Andrew and Larry. Okay. So Tom, you got to call people to vote, I guess?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was just trying to send an email. Send.
I understand.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? No? Okay, let the minute show that it's unanimous to approve. What you have received, I just received my own email. I sent it out to all of you, is a waiver that has been signed by Mr. Cinto with regard to this meeting or any claims that he might or might not have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read it into the record, if I may. But Charlie, when you prepare minutes of the meeting, I think that it would be appropriate for you to attach this as something that we received. Okay, but for Mr. White's edification, it's a voluntary waiver of time limits dated August 17th, ethics complaint number 1-220. Whereas a complaint has been filed by Richard White against Anthony Cinto bearing 1-2020, which complaint is dated May 28th, 2020, and was received by the Ethics Commission on May 29th, 2020. And whereas the Ethics Commission and his name is crossed out, Tony Cinto, have discussed and agreed to a postponement of the hearing to be held in regard to said complaint. And whereas certain deadlines may or will expire for the Ethics Commission to act pursuant to the Trumbull Code of Ethics, Section 2-2B1 et sec, and the Town Charter 17J, Section 17J. Therefore, it is agreed Tony Cinto hereby knowingly and voluntarily agrees to waive by his signature below, does waive the application of any and all deadlines for the Ethics Commission to act, conduct hearings, to issue its final decision, action and any sanction and any other action it may need to take without reservation of any type, signed, dated by Tony Sintel. Were you able to hear that, Mr. White?
I did. I did not receive an email yet, but I don't know if I was sent one. So
You didn't get an email from me saying that the meeting was going to occur?
oh no, I did. But the
Right.
email that you said you just sent with the attachment,
Oh, no,
have not received that.
I just sent it to the Ethics Commission.
That's fine.
Purposes. I figured I'd read it out loud so that you certainly can hear it. This is, I guess this was obtained, I believe Attorney Nugent was the one who drafted this voluntary waiver of time limits. It was, according to an email I received from Attorney Shopik, it was brought to his office later this afternoon by Tony Sintel. And at my request, I asked Mr. Shopik to send it to me, which he did, and I read it. And although the signature is not witnessed, I'm willing to accept it for what it says. Each of you can make your own decisions on that. But then Mr. Shopik sent out an email, I believe, to Mr. White, and perhaps only to Mr. White that I'm aware of, saying there won't be a meeting tonight. And I sent an email back to him saying, well, there has to be because the commission has not agreed to a postpone of the hearing. And I can't agree to that. Only the commission can agree to when it participates, how it's going to participate in meetings. We have something before us which indicates that Mr. Sinto, as the respondent, would be agreeable to having this hearing postponed. My recollection is that in a response to Attorney Shopik's approaching him and either talking to him on the phone or emailing him, he preferred a hearing. The best way to describe it would be a personal hearing, that is to say, in the flesh, as opposed to by way of camera. So that was what resulted in this voluntary waiver of time limits. Mr. Sinto had corresponded with Attorney Nugent, and I received copies of it, indicating that he was, at least from his standpoint, at some point, some weeks ago or a week ago, I don't know the time frame, he didn't understand how this meeting could be taking place within 45 days. I believe Attorney Shopik indicated to him that it's 45 business days, and due to an email that I had prepared, I knew how many days there were, and I sent it to Attorney Shopik. And then there was some question as to whether there was notice sent, and there were 2 emails sent, I believe, for the 10 days notice before the hearing, and there were 2 emails sent, I believe it was the 31st, to his email address. I have been informed now, I guess, Bill Chin, that there's been some problem with the emails on the Town of Trumbull website, and he may not have received those emails. So based upon that, it would seem to me a couple things. One, do we as a group care to go forward with this hearing tonight, such as it is, and Mr. Sinto not here, evidently mistakenly believing for whatever reason, perhaps Attorney Shopik's email, that we've already agreed to it. I personally would prefer having a hearing in the flesh, so to speak. I'm used to that for a lot of reasons as an attorney. I feel much more comfortable in listening to a person and watching them as they speak. Secondly, if in fact we noticed him, but he didn't receive it, then there's a question of whether or not that would be satisfactory to a court if this were to ever go to court. I think that it's constructive notice. We attorneys kind of know what that is. I did not have his private email address to do that, send it to him. But if he needs more time to prepare, he'll certainly have adequate time if we postpone it, so that it'll be fairer for him to prepare. And I'm the one speaking now, but I'm going to make a motion to move it along that we accept the voluntary waiver of time limits from Mr. Cinto and accept his waiver as he has given it to us, both of the 45 days, the 10 days notice of this date, and the 120 days that we have in the ethics code in which to decide or finalize a matter. So I'm making a motion to accept the voluntary waiver of time limits and then proceed to the next item, if there's a second.
Second.
I'll second it.
That's
Any
Andrew.
discussion? Any
Yeah.
discussion? I've discussed it, so whoever would like to speak, by all means.
This is
Well,
Charlie.
the only thing
makes
that I
sense
would
to
want
me.
to say is that I don't think we really have a choice tonight because it appears that Mr. Cinto has relied on his waiver in whatever discussions he may have had with our lawyer or lawyers, that he didn't need to be here tonight, that there wasn't going to be a hearing and it was going to be postponed. So I think we should accept the waiver and vote it and set a date.
I agree. I think that's the fair thing to do. Although I guess we can talk again when you do your next motion. The only issue becomes, and I understand he's waived his time limits, and I understand he would prefer a face-to-face, and I understand that, Tom, you would prefer a face. I think we would all prefer that.
I
The
agree.
only issue is, how long do we delay that process? Because it's not entirely sure when there may actually be any face-to-face.
Attorney, if I may, just to go on, because you brought up the subject that would be subsequent to our vote on this, but we might as well talk about that. What I would suggest, if we approve the voluntary waiver of time limits and we accept it, that we adjourn to a date certain. Dan Shopik, who may know more about what's going on with meetings and maybe in Hartford that I'm not unaware of, certainly, had suggested maybe October 1st. I checked my calendar recently and I saw the October 5th, which is the Monday before, excuse me, Columbus Day, might be a proper time to adjourn to a date certain. And if we're free of this Zoom methodology of meeting, so be it. And if not, well, then we can take it under advisement, find out when we're going to be, if that's how we want to do it. But at least it sets a date for us to be together again. And hopefully Mr. White, if he's going to be available, and Mr. Cinto, if he's available. But it seems to me notice this far in advance, hopefully would give everybody notice that we will proceed on that evening, October 5th, which we would adjourn to, or we would then set up another date. Maybe if we're seeing in a short period of time, we set up a hearing person to person in the flesh. Trying to-
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the October 5th date. I think that's probably a good date for now, Tom. Just knowing how the courts are operating and what we're getting, the information we're getting about when we can expect to have sort of face-to-face hearings and trials, it may not be this year. But maybe by October, maybe we'll have a little bit more guidance and maybe we can have, for a hearing, I'm thinking more in terms of jury trials and
Yeah,
trying to impanel juries, and that's going to be more complicated. But maybe a hearing, maybe we will be able to do something that's in person, face to face, by October.
With a distancing or something.
yeah, well, that's kind of what I was thinking, because, and Bill could tell us, if, for instance, we were to get together up in the council chambers, and the six of us were together, Katie from community television, and Bill from wherever, it could be broadcast, I believe, by Zoom, and we could have the participation of the respondent as well as the complainant in this matter, both present. And any of their witnesses could be on call to enter the room. It's a large room, to be heard. That's a possibility, certainly. It may not be optimum, but the public could then participate on the Zoom if they wanted to. Correct, Bill?
Yes, that's correct.
That works for me.
So it seems to me that as a practical matter, this would allow Mr. Cinto time to prepare if he wasn't prepared, in fact, not having received them through no fault of anyone's, I guess. And I was going to ask Mr. White, but Mr. White, I saw an email that he responded to Mr. Shopik's. And so I'm going to ask him, notwithstanding what I saw, whether he has any objection to our proceeding in this manner.
Yeah, I sent an email. Mr. Shopik, I don't recall CCing you on that email.
You did.
Attorney Lee, I apologize for that. You weren't on the initial recipient list. I don't have a problem with some level of accommodation. I'm not sure why I was, necessarily consulted on that. And I offered this to Mr. Shopik. I can meet in person. I don't have a personal problem with that. I'm assuming the town would have whatever social distancing requirements. I have no problem with an in-person meeting at all. I could have done that tonight. I only wanted to point out that the town is successfully holding all of its meetings via Zoom. Our budget was passed by Zoom. Our mill rate was set by Zoom. Redistricting committees held all of its meetings by Zoom. So I trust that you guys will make the right, procedural thing to hold this in person or in Zoom. But I'm personally not sure we're going to be in person in October either.
Right.
I'm not either. And there's an expression, what, kicking it down the road? Well, I'd rather say we're postponing having to make a final decision on this until October 1st. And hopefully we'll see the light, again, a trite phrase, we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps on that. I know what my personal opinion would be, that the optimum would be to have an in-person hearing in public. Again, it's not limiting the public from viewing, but a hearing in public is not similar to a town council meeting or some of the other meetings by boards and commissions wherein they have time set aside at the beginning of their meetings to speak. It's not a public hearing, it's a hearing in public. And it's a distinction with a difference. And I certainly don't want to ever indicate that we're not interested in the public observing. Their participation is limited because of the nature of the hearing. So that's the only reason. And this will give everybody time at least to have a date certain. And, it's going to be up to the commission to decide on October 5th, if that's what we approve, to where we're going. Andy, did
We
you have
talking about
something?
the 1st or the 5th?
I think the 5th is the Monday. It's 1 week before Columbus Day. If somebody wants to check a calendar.
Yeah, it's Monday the 5th. Okay, I would move that we accept the extension of time signed by Tony Cinto, and that we move this public hearing till October 5th at 7 p.m. To a date certain, and then we will decide, I think in advance of that, whether or not it'll continue as a Zoom or an in-person meeting on that date.
That sort of subsumes mine, which is fine. You've been very concise. There is now one motion before the commission. I need a second. We need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on this motion? I'll withdraw mine.
Sorry, Tom.
No, it's all right, Andy. You took care of both of them at once. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous that we will adjourn this meeting to the date certain of October 5th, 2020 at 7 p.m. On Zoom if necessary, if not in the appropriate town facilities. And Mr. Wood, you had,
Attorney Lee?
Yeah.
I do have a technical question. I sent an email to the minority leader of the town council through their town council email address regarding this matter back in May. And I never received a response. And I just wanted to ask Mr. Chin if he knew if those emails that may not have been sent were going to be sent, or if I should resend or whatever. And I can take that offline with Bill later if necessary.
No, that's okay. It's a legitimate inquiry. Are they going to be,
So
the email sitting there, Bill?
yeah, to answer Mr. White's question, we recently, because Mr. Cinto asked us to look at look for an email that Attorney Lee had sent him through his town email, which is a forwarding email address. We looked into it, and later last week we discovered that there was a problem with that relay of the emails. The email won't be sent if it's not sitting there waiting to be sent, and it's unclear to us how long that problem has been happening. So there's a good chance that the email that Mr. White sent to Mr. Massaro was never received.
Okay, thank you.
It probably would be prudent, if I may, Mr. White, if you don't know Carl's email address, would be to call his office tomorrow and ask him. Mr. White?
Yeah, I trust that the forwarding email is now working, and I will just resend
resend it.
that. I'm not. It's just my own thing. You know, if it's a town volunteer, I don't want to hit their personal email with, any more email traffic than they want. So
If you want, send it to me. I won't read it and I'll forward it to Carl for you. I have his email address. So I'm sure you'll be able to correspond with him. Going online, I suspect you'll find his business email available to you.
So this is Bill again. The email forwarders are currently not working. We've taken them off the town website. But if you'd like, I'm sure I can send to you Mr. Massaro's email address that he had email forwarding to.
I do appreciate that. Thank
not
you.
his work address.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. Is there any other business that anybody has this evening? I think
Nothing for me.
Okay. Andy,
Guess I move to adjourn.
Larry? Who's
I second the motion to adjourn.
right? Who made it? John?
No,
Andy
Andy did.
Oh, Andy, thank you.
and Larry second.
I'm going to go right to all in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.